Hey there. Well, so today I'm going to do something pretty cool. It's kind of not really my invention, but it is kind of my invention in that I didn't use a recipe for this. I just said, is that crooked? I just said, hey, I'm going to do this, and here's how I'm going to go about it. So today, I'm going to make, well, for lack of a better term, I'm going to make pork schnitzel. But really what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut pork tenderloin into medallions and then pan fry them with some panko crumbs and make little, pork medallions, crunchy pork medallions. So it's kind of like schnitzel, but it's not really schnitzel, okay? And then I'm going to serve it with a mushroom sauce, a mushroom cream sauce. So to do that, I just decided, you know what, I'm going to make my own mushroom cream sauce. Now, if you don't want to go through this, you know what you can do? Just get a can of Campbell's cream of mushroom soup and the Lipton beefy onion soup, and put a tablespoon of the beefy onion soup powder in the Campbell's cream of mushroom soup, and bam, you got a mushroom sauce, and it's going to be delicious. But I'm going to go through it the long way. So I always prefer to use my homemade beef stock, but I don't have any, and I really prefer to use veal stock. Since I don't have any homemade beef stock, I'm going to use this. Now what I like to do is, this is 32 ounces. I take half of it, 16 ounces. I put it in a little saucepan and I simmer it until it reduces by half, so I concentrate the flavor. It's going to have a little bit of thyme and tarragon. It's going to have a shallot. And then, for my purposes here, I'm going to use an 8-ounce package of these baby Bella mushrooms that I'm going to chop finely. And I'm going to use some of these shiitakes, which is, 3.5 ounces. I'm going to use some light cream. There's going to be some butter. There's going to be salt and pepper, So this is not going to be one of those, cholesterol-free sauces. It's going to be a delicious sauce. And if it doesn't thicken the way I want it to, with just using the cream, I might use a little roux at the end. I might not. We'll see what happens. So we're just going to go with that. But it's going to be a delicious mushroom sauce. And this sauce is going to be on top of the little pork medallions. And I'm going to serve it on the side with a little bit of egg noodles. So it's going to be like a very nice traditional German schnitzel thing, I guess. But it's really not. And it's my own recipe. This is all me. Everything we're doing here came out of my head. That doesn't mean that I didn't come up with the idea from someplace else, but I didn't go online and find a recipe. What we're doing here came out of my head, all of it. All right, so let's get started. All right, so here's what we've got here. These are my baby Bella mushrooms, or you can use white button mushrooms, it doesn't matter. They're pretty much the same. I'm gonna use a little olive oil and a little butter in the pan to saute everything. These are the shiitakes. So I rinsed them. I cleaned off the mushrooms. I know back in the day they used to say, don't get the mushrooms wet because they're going to lose flavor. But think about it. I'm going to put these in a pan. They're going to release all their liquid, and then I'm going to cook that liquid down. So they're basically going to concentrate the flavor anyhow. So I don't believe that it's a real big issue. So I'm going to put those aside. Oh, I dropped one. Put those aside. I'm going to take care of that shallot. And then, before I tell you about that, so I'm going to take all but two mushrooms. I'm going to just slice them. The rest of the baby Bellas, I'm going to mince them into a fine mince. I'm not going to mince them like I was making a duxelle for a beef Wellington, but they're going to be finely chopped. Here's my shallot. I'm just going to, peel it, get the skin off, and I'm going to, mince it. Same thing with this one, down the middle. There you go. Okay. And now we take care of the mushrooms. And like I said, I'm going to keep 2 mushrooms on the side that I'm not going to use. And the rest, we're going to chop fine. So I don't need to take out the stem. I just wanted to show you that I'm going to use everything, right? Right? And we're just going to chop up our mushroom. Right, you see where we're going? Okay, so you see I've got my chopped mushrooms here, and you know, it's not super finely chopped, you know, but they're chopped enough for our purposes here. And now what I'm doing is I'm just taking these shiitakes and slicing them a little bit more finely, but I want to leave them in discrete chunks to add to the texture of the mushroom sauce. And so I've got one left here of the baby bellas, and I'm just going to chop that and leave it whole like that, so that, you know, we've got large chunks in the sauce. Okay, so it's my recipe, and what I'm going to do here is just put about a tablespoon of olive oil and a tablespoon of butter. The recipe calls for 2 tablespoons of butter, but one of those tablespoons is going to be at the end when we're going to mount it in. So we're going to stir it up and whisk it up. So once that butter melts and the oil gets hot, I'm going to start with the shallots. Once the shallots are translucent, then I'm going to put in the mushrooms. Okay, so here go the shallots. Now, normally when I'm making any dish, I would season it in layers. So I might put a little bit of salt and pepper at this stage. But I'm not going to do that now because it's a sauce, and even though I'm using unsalted beef stock, I don't know how much salty flavor is going to come from any of the other components, and I don't want it to be a salty sauce. So I want to do all my seasoning, salt and pepper, at the very end. So once those shallots get a little bit translucent, I'll put in the mushrooms. Okay, so the shallots are translucent and they're giving off a lovely aroma. And now I'm going to very carefully get all of these mushrooms into that pan. And, you know, I'm trying to not be Tom, but let's face it, Tom spills stuff. Tom spills stuff all the time. You know, I can't help it. It happens. Okay, rendering, because I want to reduce it by half, so I want to concentrate the beef flavor. So everything's going to have a really concentrated flavor when it goes into this. See it? See the liquid? Now by me clearing it out like that, you're going to see the liquid pool in the middle. See it? Right? Liquid's pooling in the middle, and then it's going to evaporate. And once we're dry, then we're going to deglaze with 2 ounces of that nice red wine. You know, I just use my regular Bogle Merlot. It's not a fancy wine, but it's a delicious wine, and it's perfect for this purpose. So you see all that liquid. So we're just going to concentrate the flavors. Right, I don't see a lot of liquid pooling anymore, so it looks like we're just about at the next stage, right? And again, you want to be very careful that you don't burn it. So what I did just now is I lowered the flame a little bit. Right, so now we've got a nice concentrated mushroom. And now 2 ounces of my Merlot, and we deglaze that pan. Okay, and that's the sauce. Okay, so here goes the stock. See, I didn't dry it out completely, but you see how I reduced that red wine. Now here goes the beef stock. Perfect. All right, I'm gonna let that simmer on a lower flame than that, right, for about 15 minutes. All right, so look at how nice that sauce looks so far, right? It's just the beef stock. It's been nearly 15 minutes. So now I'm going to add the cream and the herbs. And then we're gonna see if it thickens enough. And if it doesn't, I'll add a little roux. And if it does, I won't. Here it is, 4 ounces of light whipping cream. I could have used heavy whipping cream. I happen to have light whipping cream. I don't really think it matters that much. And then here is about a 1/4 teaspoon of tarragon and a 1/4 teaspoon of thyme. Okay, and now we're gonna stir that up. Right, so now we've got that nice cream color, right? That's also got that nice mushroom color. Isn't that nice? All right, and now I'm gonna raise the heat a little bit to see if raising the temperature is gonna get it to thicken a bit. And like I said, if it doesn't thicken to my liking in the next couple of minutes, I'm going to add a little bit of roux. Okay, so you see how it's now simmering, and typically that's when we start to get a little thickening happening. And it looks like it is thickening a bit. And I don't want to put, like, normally I would put a tablespoon of butter and a tablespoon of flour for a roux or more. If I do a roux here, it's going to be a less than that, like a teaspoon, because I really don't want a lot of roux. I don't want to make it over thick. I'm going to give it another minute and then decide. All right, so it did not come up to the thickness that I would like. So I made a tiny bit of roux. Look at how little bit that is. It's just like less than a teaspoon of flour and less than a teaspoon of butter. Just enough for this little bit of sauce to give it a little bit more binding. That's it. Just that tiny little bit. Now watch what that's going to do. That's going to thicken it up just nice, and just a little bit, right? Because I don't want it to be a thick sauce, but I do want it to not be runny, and I want it to stick to my noodles, right? Okay. So there's that. And I was going to mount it with a little butter. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to leave it like this. Let that come to the bubble for a second, and it's going to thicken up nice. And I'm not going to mount it with any butter. So there you go. Now take a look at it, right? You see how it's a little bit thicker? Oh, that's beautiful. All right, so now last step. I didn't put any salt or pepper. And, hold on, I want to taste it just as it is. Yeah. So it's going to be a little pinch of salt. A little pepper. Oh, that's a beautiful sauce. All right, let's make sure it's seasoned correctly. We're going to try that again. A tiny bit more salt. And that's it, we are done. Oops. Okay, so here is the, oh boy, the cream sauce. Look at that nice mushroom cream sauce. Now, I guess since I used beef stock, technically I could call it a gravy also, right? Because that beef stock comes from beef drippings and beef bones, so I guess I could call it a gravy, but I really feel like it's a mushroom cream sauce. Okay. And look at that. That's beautiful. Okay, there it is. There's my pork medallions with the mushroom sauce on top. And then, of course, some lovely noodles. And let's just cut into one of these. You hear the crunch? Oh, yeah. Oops. Oh, man, is that good. And it's not that hard.